Welcome to another episode of Mastering Cybersecurity, developed by baremetalcyber.com. Let's dive in. Preventive controls are easiest to visualize in the physical world because many daily safety habits exist primarily to stop bad events before they start. When a building owner installs sturdy door locks and window latches, that owner is creating obstacles that make unauthorized entry much more difficult, which directly reduces the likelihood of intrusions or opportunistic theft. Fences around a property form another simple preventive control, defining a clear boundary and making it harder for someone to quietly walk into sensitive areas without being noticed. Inside an office or school, badge checks at reception prevent unknown visitors from moving freely through hallways or reaching equipment rooms without being challenged or escorted. Even simple floor markings that separate visitor areas from employee zones can act as gentle preventive controls by guiding people away from critical spaces and equipment. Each of these examples shows how physical measures act early in the timeline, so the harmful event never gets a real chance to begin or develop. The same preventive idea appears in digital life through controls that reduce the chance of unauthorized access or harmful actions before they occur. Strong, unique passwords that avoid common words or reused patterns make it significantly harder for attackers to guess or reuse credentials obtained from other compromised services or past data breaches. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, adds a second or third verification step, such as a one-time code or hardware token, which prevents account takeover even when a password is stolen or leaked in a breach. Basic firewall rules on home routers or corporate gateways act as digital gatekeepers that block unwanted network traffic from reaching computers or servers in the first place. Account lockout policies that temporarily disable sign-in after many failed attempts discourage password guessing attacks by making sustained guessing almost impossible in real conditions. Together, these preventive digital controls narrow the paths an attacker can use, so many attacks simply never get started successfully or never progress beyond the first step. Detective controls become important when preventive measures are not perfect, which is the reality in every environment regardless of size or budget. In the physical world, a common example is a security camera that records activity at building entrances, hallways, or parking lots, providing a history that can be reviewed if something suspicious occurs. Motion sensors installed in storage rooms or server closets act as another detective control because they trigger alerts when movement is detected during times when no one should be present. Door open or door force alarms on emergency exits also serve as detective controls, signaling immediately when an unusual event, like a forced entry or propped door, is happening in real time. Security guards who patrol and log observations during their rounds are performing a live detective function by noticing things that seem out of place and documenting them carefully. These physical detective controls do not prevent every incident, but they create visibility that makes response faster and more informed when problems arise. In digital environments, corrective controls often focus on data, accounts, and software health after an incident has occurred and been contained. Restoring from verified backups allows organizations to bring applications and information back to a known good state after ransomware encryption or accidental deletion that disrupts services. Resetting passwords and forcing sign-out sessions across all devices after detecting account compromise is another corrective action, which stops continued misuse of stolen credentials and closes open sessions. Applying security patches that fix known software vulnerabilities closes weaknesses that attackers exploited or tried to exploit, so the same technique cannot be reused easily against the same system. Rebuilding a compromised server from a clean image rather than simply cleaning individual files is a strong corrective control because it removes hidden malicious changes that might be difficult to spot through manual inspection. Together, these digital corrective measures limit the length and depth of damage, helping systems return to trustworthy operation with a more resilient posture. Deterrent controls influence behavior largely through psychology, shaping decisions before someone even approaches a system or facility in a serious way. In daily life, a simple example is a clearly visible security camera mounted above a door, which signals that actions in that area are recorded and reviewable by others. Warning signs stating that trespassers will be prosecuted or that an alarm system is active also work as deterrent controls by raising the perceived cost and risk of misbehavior. Bright lighting around entrances and parking lots reduces hiding places, making people considering harmful actions feel more exposed and therefore less likely to proceed. Even the presence of uniformed security staff at a reception desk or patrolling a property can create a strong deterrent effect by signaling that monitoring and rapid response are available. These measures do not physically block actions or close every path, but they reduce the number of people willing to attempt wrongdoing in the first place by changing how situations feel. Compensating controls provide alternative protections when the ideal or mandated control cannot reasonably be implemented, often due to legacy systems, cost limits, or operational constraints that cannot change quickly. Imagine an older industrial control device that cannot support modern encryption or strong password standards, but still plays a critical role in a manufacturing process that must run continually. If replacing the device immediately is impossible, a compensating control might involve placing it on a tightly segmented network with strict monitoring and limited access paths approved by management. Additional manual review procedures, such as daily checks of logs or change records, can also serve as compensating controls when automated options are not available on that older platform. In a small clinic that cannot afford a particular advanced security product, extra training and documented approval steps before accessing sensitive records may function as compensating measures. The key idea is that compensating controls meet the security intent through different mechanisms while still addressing the underlying risk in a documented, thoughtful way that can be explained to reviewers. Another helpful way to understand controls is to consider their form, which often falls into technical, administrative, or physical categories that overlap with the types already discussed. Technical controls are implemented through technology, such as software settings, encryption features, access control rules, and network devices that automatically enforce security decisions based on configured logic. Administrative controls exist as policies, procedures, standards, and training programs that guide how people should act and make choices related to security in daily work. Physical controls involve tangible structures and devices, including locks, badges, fences, and secure cabinets that protect hardware and printed documents from theft or damage. Any individual control can belong to both a type like preventive or detective and a form like technical or physical at the same time without any conflict. For instance, a preventive technical control might be a password policy enforced by a system, while a detective administrative control could be a regular review of access logs by a manager who signs off on results. Seeing controls through both lenses deepens understanding of how they fit into the overall protection strategy. To see how control types work together, consider a simple phishing email scenario that targets a small community fundraiser platform used by volunteers and staff. A preventative technical control might involve email filtering rules that block many known malicious messages before they reach inboxes, reducing the initial exposure for users. An administrative preventative control could be training sessions that explain common phishing signs so people recognize unusual requests for urgent transfers or password confirmations that break normal patterns. Despite these measures, one suspicious email still arrives and gets opened, where a detective control such as an SIEM alert or endpoint monitoring report notices a strange login pattern shortly afterward. Corrective controls then come into play, including disabling the affected account, resetting passwords, and restoring any modified settings from backup records or configuration templates maintained by the support team. This small story demonstrates that even when an attack slips past early defenses, layered controls can still limit harm and speed recovery significantly compared with having only one line of defense. When control categories and forms come together, they create defense in depth, which simply means using multiple layers of protection so that no single failure leads directly to severe damage. A strong defense in depth approach uses preventive controls to reduce the chances of successful attacks, detective controls to reveal when something slips through, and corrective controls to restore normal operations quickly and carefully. Deterrent controls reduce the number of attempts by influencing decisions before actions occur, while compensating controls ensure that unusual situations still receive thoughtful protection when ideal solutions are out of reach. Over time, teams refine their mix of technical, administrative, and physical controls by learning from incidents, audits, and changes in technology or business priorities that reshape risks. Someone who understands these categories can join those discussions more confidently and clearly explain what each control is intended to achieve. This episode is part of Mastering Cybersecurity, developed by baremetalcyber.com as a guide for new learners building a solid foundation. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.